So for today's video, I am going to do the 2 books 1 stone tag. I was tagged to do this video by Connor over at Connor's Library Corner. You should go and check him out. I will put his channel in the description below and in the eye. He is a great person and a fantastic booktuber. I will just say that anyone else that I mention will be in the description below, so go and check them all out. I'm not 100% sure who the original creator of this tag was, so I will go and find that out and pop it in the description below. So let's do the tag. First question for this one is the second to last book that you read. I had to have a little bit of a think about this one because I am partway through the Priory of the Orange Tree, but not finished it, so I can't really count that as the last book that I read, which means the last book I finished was White Rage by Carol Anderson, which means that the book that I finished before that was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, and I'm going to be putting little clips of the books because I neglected to actually get them. Anyway, yeah. It's a bit hard for me to say the answers to that question because I've been reading a lot of books concurrently, so anyway, the second question is the second book from the top of your TBR. So I don't have a TBR shelf. The shelf that I often film in front of is sort of my TBR / current shelf. So it's changing quite frequently depending on what I'm planning on reading in the next month or what I am currently reading. This shelf behind me is a new shelf that my partner made recently, and at the moment it's just housing those books. It'll probably stay that way. Yeah, so I don't really have a TBR shelf. I tend to just kind of put the books on whatever is available at the time. So I had a little bit of a think about what order I bought books in that I haven't now read, and probably the second to first book, probably the second oldest book on my TBR, shall we say, is The Confession by Jessie Burton. Yeah, so that would be the book that I bought the longest ago that I haven't read yet, if that makes sense. Question 3 is 2 2-star reads. I have chosen 2 books that I read this year that I have given 2 stars to. So one is Cradle and All by James Patterson. I spoke about this in my first 12-hour reading challenge, and I think I've also spoken about this in a wrap-up. So I will link those videos in the description below if you want to know what I said in a bit more detail. Go and check them out. Basically, I just didn't really enjoy the book overly much. It was okay, but what really let me down and what made me put it down towards the end of my sort of rating and enjoyment was the ending, and that is because the ending basically to me made the rest of the book feel like it was completely pointless. It made it feel like it was null and void, and yeah, so I didn't really appreciate that because I felt like I then had wasted my time and I wasn't quite sure what the point now of the entire book was. So Cradle and All by James Patterson, and then Not Meeting Mr. Right by Anita Heiss. So again, I've spoken about this in a wrap-up. I think it was my March wrap-up, possibly my February wrap-up. I will link that in the description below. Anyway, this was a contemporary book set in Australia, and it was about a young Aboriginal woman basically trying to find a partner and start a family. I just didn't really like it very much. It just was kind of boring. It really didn't speak to me. It wasn't super well written. It wasn't badly written. It just wasn't super well written. And yeah, I just didn't really like it. I just found it boring. So that was just my opinion. Next question, question number 4 is to name 2 great books by the same author. So for this one, I am going to say Big Little Lies and The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. So for those people who have watched my favourite standalones video, you would know that Big Little Lies is one of my favourite standalone books of all time. I love Liane Moriarty. I think she is an amazing author. I think that she writes fantastic characters. I think her contemporary topics are really great. She writes the kind of contemporary chick lit type of work that I really like because it's a lot more hard-hitting than it would seem to be on the surface, and I think that these two books are perfect examples of that. So Big Little Lies, most people probably know because it's fairly popular. It was also made into a TV show. I think it was HBO, with Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, and a bunch of other amazing actors. I really enjoyed the TV show as well. So most people would know that book because if they don't know the book, they know the TV show. And then The Husband's Secret is another one of hers, which I think is really well done. The secret that the husband has is really well done. You don't know until the very end or near the very end what's actually going on, and it's plotted really well, basically. So next question number 5 is 2 bails. 2 books that you bailed on or wish you'd bailed on. So I'm actually going for both of those interpretations because I'm going to say Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy and The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. So Tess of the D'Urbervilles I didn't bail on because it was a book that I was reading for high school, so that's how long ago I read that. I've had a few people on BookTube who have said that they love this book. I feel like possibly I should give it another shot because maybe the reason I didn't like it is because I was having to study it. I didn't think my high school English teacher was particularly good at her job, so that might very well have influenced how I feel about that book. But yeah, I really didn't enjoy it as I was reading it. I didn't DNF it because I had to read it for school, so there's that one. Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, I got about a third of the way into the book and I just wasn't feeling it. I have not got a very good relationship with Dickens. I've only read one book of his that I liked, which was Great Expectations. I've enjoyed all of the adaptations that I have seen that are based on books of his, so I like the storylines, but for some reason the actual books I don't particularly gel with, so I DNF that one. Next question number 6 is 2 favourite reads so far this year. In my mid-year freakout tag and various other videos that I've made this year, I have said how much I loved Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I'm actually going to choose 2 other books because I have had a really good reading year so far and I've actually enjoyed quite a few of the books that I've read, so I'm going to say 2 different books. So I don't want you guys to think that I only like one book. And they are The Million Pieces of Nina Gill. I read this for Mental Health-a-thon and I thought that it was fantastic. I thought that it was really, really well written, a really great character study. It was written in a really thoughtful and thought-provoking way. It deals with a young girl who is teenager who whose brother went missing about a year before the book starts, and it is about her deteriorating mental health as a result of the situation that she finds herself in because of her brother's disappearance, how she then tries to get better. I thought that it was really believable. The character of Nina Gill was just brilliantly written. It's written in a very kind way, so you get a real sense of her struggles and her motivations, and yeah, I just think it's beautiful and I really, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Not for the faint of heart, but if that's the kind of thing that you enjoy, a young adult contemporary dealing with some hard-hitting topics, I definitely recommend that you read it. It was great. The next one is a book that I have mentioned a few times also, and that is Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. I don't want to go into a huge amount of detail because it's actually a sequel, but I really, really enjoyed it. I really loved Skyward, which is the first one, but I actually kind of preferred Starsight a little bit more. I don't really want to tell you why because that would potentially be a spoiler, but I just thought that he introduced a bunch of new topics and new characters and new storylines to the sequel in such a way that you didn't feel like sometimes when they do that you feel like, well, where was that in the first one? And that didn't feel like that in the second one. It felt like a new story that worked with the old story and yeah, it's just done beautifully. So that was that one. Okay, so the next question is to say 2 booktubers that are new to you that you really like. This is a tricky question because I'm always finding booktubers that I really like, and I have a lot of booktubers that I watch all the time that I love who aren't necessarily new to me. So I had a look at some people that I have subscribed to in the last month or so, and again, it was really tricky because I really like all of the people I subscribe to, but 2 people that really stuck out to me that I really want to talk about. And the first one is Ashley from Bookish Realm. Ashley is an American booktuber. She's actually a librarian, so she has a really interesting perspective on books and reading books, not just from the point of view of being a person that loves to read books, but from the point of view of actually having experience in thinking about what other people think of books and what people like and why they like them and that sort of thing. So I really appreciate her. I think she's great. Like I said in the beginning, all the people I talk about I will link below, but I will put Ashley up in the eye as well. And I also want to mention Meg and Sue from the channel SpineBreakers. I think I discovered them a bit over a month ago, but I just think their channel is really fun and really interesting. I really like the dynamic of the 2 of them talking about what they're doing and what they've been reading. I think that's a really interesting and fun thing to watch, that it's not something you see very often on BookTube, so I enjoy that. They read, I think, quite differently from me. They seem to read a lot of sci-fi, which is not really my thing, but I'm slowly getting into it. But yeah, I just really enjoy watching their videos. They're very laid back, and they have a really lovely sort of personalities in front of the camera. They always are drinking some kind of beer or cider or something like that from breweries, which are local homegrown breweries from around the States, which I just think is a really nice touch. I think it's something a bit different and a bit interesting, and yeah, I think that's really cool. So those are the 2 booktubers that I want to tell you about, or booktube channels I should say, because technically it's 3 people. There are some really great channels around and people around, so you should go and check them out, and lots of other people too. Question number 8 is 2 books that you have read twice. So I'm actually going to say 2 books that I have read for the 2nd time this year. So the first one of those is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and the other one is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. And the last question is to say 2 fabulous quotes from 2 books that you've really enjoyed. So the first quote I have here is from The Cruel Prince. Only in fairyland is a giant toad the less conspicuous choice. Which I just think is a great example of what sort of thing you can expect from The Cruel Prince. It's just a fun adventure story, crazy romp through fairyland. And in this particular instance, Jude was choosing between a horse or a giant toad to ride to the palace, and she didn't want to be noticed, so she chose the giant toad because that would be less conspicuous than a horse. Hence the quote. And the next quote I have written somewhere here. This is a quote from White Rage, so I think it's a fabulous quote. Yeah. The truth is that the hard-fought victories of the civil rights movement caused a reaction that stripped Brown of its power, severed the jugular of the Voting Rights Act, closed off access to higher education, poured crack cocaine into the inner cities, and locked up more black men proportionally than even apartheid-era South Africa. Need I say more? Alright, so there is actually a final question, which is just basically to tag people, but what you need to do is you need to tag a number of people that can be divisible by 2. Yes. Tag a number of other booktubers to do the tag. The number of booktubers that you tag has to be divisible by 2. So I'm going to tag 6 people. I'm going to tag the 2 people who I mentioned as fantastic booktubers that I've found recently. So Ashley from Bookish Realm and Megan and Sue from SpineBreakers. I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit because I actually don't know whether Megan and Sue or any of the other people that I'm about to say are subscribed to my channel, so I don't know whether they'll actually even see this tag and know that they are tagged. I will try to inform them, but anyway, why not? Let's go out on a limb. So I'm going to tag Merphy Napier from Merphy Napier and Emma from Drinking by My Shelf, Simone from me, Simone and I, and Felicia from Bookdweller. Hopefully those people get their tags. Like I said, I'll try and inform them on Twitter or something like that as well. So there you go. You guys are tagged. Anyway guys, that is my rather rambly 2 books 1 stone tag. If you have any thoughts or opinions on the tag, on any of the books that I talked about, please do comment below and let me know. I'd love to chat with you in the comments. All of my social media details are also in the description, so I'd love to chat to you over there if you want to do so. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.